Bro, thank you for coming on the podcast. We consider we see each other every day. We've struggled to get this in for like nearly 3 months. But so the theme of the podcast really, normally I run through really just wanting to interview guys who have gone from not necessarily like rags to riches in terms of finances, but nothing to making something of themselves, whether it's in business, whether it's as, an athlete or excelling in their career. So I really just wanted to get a bit more insight for the audience around maybe a time in your life where you considered you were living compromised in terms of the brand, and when was there a transition or a part in your life where you were feeling a little bit lost before you got into the UFC, that kind of stuff. And then I'd like to just unpack your journey really and how you got to where you are now. So do you want to give us a bit of a rundown in terms of what life was like before you were a fighter? School, that kind of stuff?
I mean, that's a long time ago. Compromise. I think for me, everything happened around when everyone started going to university. I'd said, I went to school, I wasn't particularly academic. I didn't do well. When I was a kid, I wanted to become an architect. That was like my dream when I was like 14. And then I realized you have to go to school for 7 to 9 years to become an architect. And I struggled to get through normal school. I left school when I was 15 for a little bit, and I came back, and then I went to college for 1 year studying construction in the built environment, because that was like the path to become an architect. And that was at Chelmsford College, which was a shit college. And that's kind of when I found fighting, because I started wrestling at that time as well, doing submission grappling at the school. But then I stopped doing that for some reason. I ended up going to a different college to do art, because I wanted to do CAD drawing, which is basically like drawing plans for architects on computers. But the art class that I went to said that it had technical drawing in it, and it ended up being me sitting around with a load of birds drawing flowers and painting. Which I was about
doing nothing basically.
It was weird. It was weird. I did one term there, and I realized it wasn't what I signed up for, so I ended up quitting that. And I actually got a job as an intern for a company called Graphic, I think the name of the company was, with a K. And I was doing CAD drawing. And I was a kid, so I must have been 18, 17, 19, something like that. I can't remember. And I ended up doing that for a couple of months, and I loved it. It's what I wanted to do. I wasn't particularly good at it because I didn't really know what I was doing. And I think I said I knew what I was doing, and I didn't. So I was picking it up. And I remember I had to draw like bathroom floor plans, like where the toilet would go, like for apartment blocks, blueprints. And you have to put where the water is and all that sort of stuff. I remember doing it day in, day out, and I got fired from that job. Not fired, but I finished my 3 months, and they let me go, and I was devastated. I think I cried about it and whatever. I was devastated. To the guy who fired me, I was like, why? It's really what I want to do, and da 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 da. Because at that time, all of my friends, school friends, were going to university, and I didn't go to university, so I was like, didn't know what I was doing in my life. That's kind of when you say compromise, that's probably the most I've felt compromised that I can remember right now. I mean, there'll be loads of different times, but that's the thing that comes to mind right now. And it was a very, very tough time. I used to when I was working in graphic in London, I used to live in Essex, so I used to wake up at like 5:30, go to the gym, get the train into London to work, do the commute, work all day. Get back from London, go to Thai boxing or wrestling or whatever, because I started fighting around that time, and then go to sleep and wake up and do it all over again. So a very 9 to 5 life, it was very, very different. And that was kind of, it was tough when I lost that graphic job. That was when the first dream, I think, of becoming an architect, which was the first pathway that I wanted to go down, got stripped away from me. So when you say about rebuilding yourself and changing and everything else, that was probably the first one. And then my time is so weird in my head. But then after that, I worked in the Harvester, if anyone knows the Harvester, right? And I was a waiter for the Harvester. So again, all my mates were at university, and I'm working at the Harvester, which I only worked at the Harvester because it was over the road from where I lived. So it was easy work. And I used to do, when I was a kid, I was a bar back, and I did a few I was a cocktail bar. I did every job at a bar. Every job you could think of at a bar, I used to do. Started as a bar back when I was 14, working for my mates, brothers, whatever. And I was a bar back. Then I became a barman. Then I became a cocktail barman. Then, like I said, I became a doorman. I did all those jobs. But at this point in time, I was working at the Harvester as a waiter and a barman. And I ended up getting recruited by one of the general managers was going to Peterborough to open or to take over another Harvester there, and he wanted me to come as assistant manager. I was like 18, I think, I can't remember. And I ended up moving to Peterborough with this guy and living in the pub. So imagine it's like bottom floor was a pub, second floor was a restaurant, and the third floor was the flat that we used to live in. And I was just 18 or 19 or a kid, I can't remember. And I went there and I was working. Every hour God could send, I was working, because the general manager, which was my boss, which was this guy that took me, his name was Dave, he was just a massive cokehead. So I used to...
It's always one of them.
Yeah, he like recruited me, and then like I was the workhorse, so you used to have to do everything. And he would just show up for a couple of hours, shout at me a bit, and I was a kid, so I just do anything I was told. And I was working like mad, and that was when I was in Peterborough, which is a pretty rough place. I ended up learning a bit of fighting there and training, and it was near Cambridge, which is where the Tsunami gym was that I ended up training at full time. But that part of my life was very different to what it is now. And I don't think many people know I used to work at the Harvester, and I was the assistant manager at Harvester. And I did that for a long time. And I remember I used to work all day, work at the pub. Pub would close. I'd be a kid, so I'd go out, get smashed, come back to the pub, have a few pints. No, back at the pub. Like I'd have like a lock-in with the boys, have a few pints, because I'm 18, 19, running a pub. What else are you going to do? And I remember one time I come back with my mates, and we walk in, and there used to be a pool table, and the guy that was the boss, who was living upstairs, was Sparko, laying on the pool table, looking at the lights, off his face. I don't know what he was on. And I was like, God, I need to get out of it. I need to do something different. But yeah, so I was doing that on a bit of a repeat cycle. I started gambling on the fruit machines,
usual stuff,
being a boozing, just being a loser, basically. And I realized it was actually my first relationship that ended that whole saga, because I got with some girl and she was, you know, the love of my life and all the rest of it. And then she broke up with me and it broke my heart, and I rang my mum and I was like, oh, and I ended up going back home. So that was when I probably would have carried on going down that path of being like a pub landlord and whatever. And because that's just what you do when you don't know any better. You work in a pub and you just carry on working a pub, and what's going to change? I would have been promoted to the manager and But because this bird ruined me, I had to go back to my mum. So I moved back in with my mum in Essex, and that's when, again, I was very compromised, if you want to use that word. I was like heartbroken, didn't have a job. All my mates were at uni, didn't know what I was doing with my life. And that's when Paul, who was a very good friend of mine, I mean, there's a million of these stories, but Paul was, we used to run a clothing store together in Essex, and he was selling his clothing store and going to one that was in Cambridgeshire that his old boss used to own. He bought it off him. So he was going there to run that, and he asked me to come with him. So that's when I went from getting my heart broken, moving back to Essex, then going back from Essex back to Cambridgeshire, but to a different part of it. I can't remember. Huntingdon in Cambridgeshire. He had a clothing store, and the place was like, we were broke. The place had no money. Paul was broke as well. That's why he had to sell his place in Essex. And we ended up sleeping in the stockroom for, I think, 6 months or 3 to 6 months, sleeping in the stockroom. We had a laptop where we used to watch every single episode of The Sopranos. So we'd work all day in the shop, finish work, I'd go to the fight gym, do fight training, come back, watch Sopranos, sleep on an airbed in the stockroom, wake up next day, work all day, rinse and repeat. So that was a pretty compromised part of my life as well.
Yeah, the reason I ask this to people, especially someone like yourself, is because I think, especially like younger men, especially or younger lads, they think, say they see you as this, you know, retired UFC star, or athletes who are in a certain position have had success, business owners have had success, and they think that it's like that was always just what they did and their true calling. When the reality is, all the successful people I know, almost fell into what they've become really successful at by just pure trial and error and failing at stuff. Well, not necessarily failing, but just doing stuff that they didn't really have any kind of passion for, no purpose for. And then they end up falling into this one thing that they can then just focus and channel everything into. And I think it seems to be really common, the more successful people that I speak to have all got these kind of like similar falling into something by chance type of thing, but then really finding their groove with it and making the most of it. I think you're similar to me, like your mum's Christian, right? Like you had a not religious upbringing, but...
So I had a super religious upbringing. My mother's a Jehovah's Witness.
Yeah.
So we used to go to church three times a week, and it was super, super strict.
Yeah, so like going for something like fighting. I know like when I was younger, I played rugby, I did football, so like sporty. I always wanted to box. Got picked on a little bit in school, was like, I need to learn how to fight. Went into Thai boxing, things like that. But my mum was always like, no, don't fight. It's not, it's not the right thing. And like having these kind of like moral compass and code imprinted on you from a young age, it can feel very conflicting. What was it like for you getting into fighting with that kind of background?
Oh, you're asking some long time ago questions. I mean, it was tough. My mum didn't know about it. I didn't tell her about it for a long time. I actually had my first amateur fight. My cousins came, and my mum didn't know about it. So my cousins on my mum's side came. So I used to just kind of hide it from her. I don't know how else to explain it. I used to have black eyes and come back a bit beaten up, and I would just say whatever, I had a little fight.
Before the ears were crumbled.
Yeah, way before the ears. This is way before the ears. I mean, it didn't take long for me to get the ears, but she wouldn't even know that was. But she still hates that now. She wants to pay for me to have surgery, and I'm like, these are badges of honor. You will not take these away
Trophies.
from me. But yeah, no, I think I just framed it to her in a very good way, that it wasn't a violent sport. Although people, when you watch it, you think cage fighting is violent, and obviously it is. But I would always say to her that I have to outthink my opponent to beat them. It wasn't about brutality, and that was kind of my fighting style. And my mentality was always about thought process rather than about being stronger or bigger. I was more technical. And that's kind of how my career started. I started by submitting a lot of people and out pointing them and out thinking them rather than out fighting them. And to be honest, it was one of the problems of my career. I wasn't the most athletic, the most powerful, I should have been, but I didn't put as much time and energy into that because I think maybe because of my mum, I was like trying to
one toe in, one toe out type of thing.
Yeah, and maybe try and make this more of a reality that it was a thinking man's game, which obviously it is. Fighting is definitely, but it's also a very physical thing. So if I think I needed a bit more of the beast in me. But yeah, so I think obviously it's you go into fighting because it's the rebound of being sheltered. If I want to use the word sheltered, I wasn't particularly sheltered because my dad wasn't a Jehovah's Witness, so I had like a weird upbringing, but I obviously, as a kid, when you're rebelling, you understand that your mum is not going to like it, but you don't care what your mum thinks. Yeah, you want to do what you want to do, and it kind of makes you want to do that. So that must have been a part of it. I don't know that it was. For me, you explained it. I kind of just fell into it because I started being a doorman, and the guy that I was a doorman with was a cage fighter. And I made a joke that I could beat him up, and he said, listen, bro, I've had 15 professional cage fights. You couldn't beat me. I was like, come on, you're 5'10", I'm 6'6". I just hold your head and hit you. And he's like, that's not quite how it works. So he took me to the gym.
Got in the BJJ position.
Yeah, no, he didn't do that. Not quite. He wasn't even at that level then. He took me to the gym, and there was some 5'5" champion, UK champion, a guy called Robbie Olivier, and he said, spar with him. And I was like, he's 70 kilos. I'm like, and he murdered me, battered me, destroyed me, embarrassed me. And I remember driving home with Jack and just feeling like an absolute retard and being all like shy and said, okay, and yeah, everything was gone. So all this bravado that I had been ripped away from me, and I was so embarrassed. And that's why I learned how to fight, because I had I couldn't live on this planet knowing that there was a 5'5", 70 kilo midget in my eyes.
Just because absolutely pasted you.
Yeah, who could paste me. I was like, this isn't real. So I had to correct that. That's why I started. Yeah. And I think from correcting that and getting an average at fighting, because it takes a very long time, I then became my community of people. Like the gym, Jack and John and Robbie and AJ and all the guys, they became like my brothers, the people that I wanted to impress, the people that I cared about, because all of my mates had gone to uni. I was kind of on my own. I was kind of lost, and this became like a home to me. So I got closer and closer to it. and that what I cared about most was their opinion of me. So I was like trying to impress them, even if it was subconscious. I can say it all now retrospectively. At the time, I would never have said that or thought that. I'm doing it for me because it's my passion, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. And it was, because you could never get as far as I got if I wasn't passionate about it myself. But definitely a part of it was I wanted to impress them.
And that experience of losing shaped you.
Yeah, it's definitely shaped me and made me want to, again, every fight I had, and I'd still put this down to when my career started going south in fighting, it's because I actually left that group, because the gym...
A dog environment type thing.
Had financial issues in the UK, and the gym closed, and it kind of splintered like these things always do over years and years and years. And I ended up moving to San Diego and training at a much better gym, like higher end, had UFC champions training there, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I performed worse. So I was training with better people, harder, pushing myself more, had more money, had more time. It was my whole thing. I was in the UFC, blah, blah, blah. And I started losing. And it's because I didn't have my collective group or my brothers or that with me, because I was then just on my own again. Yep. You know, so I'd gone from being on my own, found this group of people that became everything to me, and I was fighting for them, representing them. I was fighting for something bigger than myself because I was fighting for the team. Then I got to a level where I was very good, and the team fell apart beneath me because of whatever, the world. Then I moved and I became an individual again, and I never found that team spirit. So when I was fighting 100% for myself from that point onwards, and I wasn't fighting for anything bigger than myself. I was just fighting for me. And that's when I started losing, and that's when I started caring less, and that's when I started, not giving it the same whatever. That happened to be on the Ultimate Fighter as well.
How many pro fights did you have before you went into the UFC?
I was very quick. I went in with 5. I had 5 professional fights, 5-0, and I went on a TV program called The Ultimate Fighter. You needed a minimum of 3 fights to compete on there. And I had 5, and I got elected to go on there. So I was in the UFC super, not young. I mean, I was young till I was 24 or 25, but young in fighting experience. Yeah, super quick. It, and that's great, but it's also long term, probably a bit too quick. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, the reason I was asking about like the upbringing side of things is because obviously being in the nature of like a coach and what I do, so many guys come to me of saying like, you know, generally wanting to be a physical transformation, but with that, and the way I coach, it's all about identity, how you perceive yourself. You'll only get so far if your underpinning belief system is that, you know, you're not good enough, you're not worthy of success, you're not capable of success. And so the reason why I ask these questions with the guys who come on, you've had success in that relative field, is like, no one starts out in that position where they believe they're going to be able to do it. And they come from, usually, like I said, maybe falling into something, but it's never the case where you necessarily believe in yourself from the get-go. A lot of guys come having to overcome those limiting beliefs, or having to move away from, say, like the mum's view of fighting, upbringing, all that kind of stuff, and like detach from that identity, which then obviously you've gone into fighting. And the thing of where you've gone now from what I call identity lag, which what a lot of my clients struggle to maintain or sustain, going from who they are now or to who they want to be, or who they were to where they are now. And you've now gone from being that fighter to being an entrepreneur, running 7 million businesses. I can't keep up with how many fucking businesses you have now, literally, to going through an identity shift again. So what was it like for you leaving the UFC and going into the world of business? Because I know you not struggled, but you felt that transition was pretty hard, right? Massively
struggled. And I think that's every fighter on the planet, or every professional sportsman on the planet, because you dedicate yourself 100%. And I think for me, my first transition or identity shift is going to be going into fighting and becoming a fighter and actually embodying it. And I think I did that, like I kind of alluded to impress others. Like I did it to impress others, and that was the pressure that I had to become good at it and to prove other people wrong, which is kind of what I think you were talking about, like with my mom. And 20 years ago when I started cage fighting, I like to call it cage fighting now because everyone calls it mixed martial arts, and it is, but it's kind of like, you got to remember, it is cage fighting. When I was coming up, you were a scumbag because you were a cage fighter. Now everyone could be a mixed martial artist, and I'm like, yeah, but it's still cage fighting. Yeah. So it's like, I use cage fighting as a word because it reminds me. But I was a cage fighter, and everyone thought I was a scumbag, and I never was. I was never raised badly. I never had problems growing up. I just liked competition because of this group. So I had to prove everyone else wrong, that I wasn't just some scumbag that was doing something in their eyes illegal or whatever, because of cage fighting. So that was the pressure for me, impressing my team, impressing the group that I had, and proving other people wrong. And that's what pushed me into that new identity. And I think just wanting to impress and wanting to improve and wanting to become better, I really pushed like my body and my mind past everything. And one of the things that I saw early, and I think it's, it's much more, people are much more aware of it now, and it sounds stupid even talking about it, but is the mental side of the game is still, in my opinion, undervalued. But then it didn't even exist. In cage fighting, it was
more
like
the brawling side of things, just get in, go.
No one even looked at the mind side of things. And when like I said, I was living in a stock room. I actually moved from the stock room at the shop to the gym, and I slept on the mats. And then I got a little bedroom behind reception in the gym. I had like a whiteboard full of quotes. I was reading books. I was doing a lot of self-help kind of style books, which I think a lot of people go through that kind of journey. But I started it quite young. And I had a much more of a vision about fighting, and I knew what I wanted to become. And I talk about this a lot in my coaching. I know, you talk about yours. I don't talk about identity shifts so much, but I talk about having like a passion and a purpose. And when you understand your passion and your purpose and your direction, life becomes so simple.
We call it a North Star in my coaching business.
Yeah,
What's your North Star?
Once you know what your North Star is, life's easy. Because everything just feeds into that North Star. When that North Star fades away, which is kind of the identity shift you're talking about, everything becomes complicated because you don't know what to do.
This is what I see with so many of my clients, and especially myself, is the times in my life where I was most overwhelmed, frustrated, anxious, comparing myself to other people, stuck in that self-criticizing mindset, was because I just hadn't tuned into what my North Star was. And it has to be that compelling vision that pulls you forward. But it's also something I say to my clients, that it should be something you can use to basically filter every decision that you make through. Put it through that lens. Does it align with what I'm trying to work through? No? Okay. And it just allows you to stay so focused. Because if you don't have that, you're always going to look around what other people are doing. But when you're focused on your North Star, it becomes really easy to focus on what you need to be doing. And that all that anxiety, all the overwhelm, all the negativity and self-criticism fades, because it's all about your progress and individual journey. And I think that's something that so many men overlook and don't take the time to develop, which I'm glad you said about with the fighting side of things, having that vision, because I think you're probably right with a lot of fighters. They don't have that, okay, what's my long-term plan with this? They might want a world title, but have they got an exit strategy? What's their life like after fighting? And I know that's something that was not hard for you, but going into that transition.
Yeah, that wasn't spoken. That wasn't part of my plan. We're not talking about my plan, but my North Star or whatever, having that North Star of, I wanted to be the best fighter I could be in the world. That's all it was. I didn't say I wanted to be the best fighter on the planet. I said I wanted to be the best fighter I can become, right? It was a personal journey. And you just said it perfectly. If it didn't feed into that objective or that goal, I just ignored it. So I was very like this.
Tunnel vision, yeah.
And without that, I have no idea where I would be or what I would be doing. But that tunnel vision or that selectiveness and understanding it has to feed into this mission that I had. And I think that's the best word. You call it North Star or whatever, but I think mission, every man needs a mission. If you have a mission and you're on a mission, life becomes so much easier. So I knew my mission very, very early. And my mission was to become the best fighter I possibly could be on the planet. And if you didn't feed into that, and that's what I'm saying, the mental side of that fed into that. So I was reading, every book that I was reading was to make me a better fighter. It wasn't to broaden my horizons or do anything like that. To make me a better fighter. That time I woke up, every bit of food I ate, every class I went to, like training session I had, every thought I had was in that purpose. And I think having that North Star or that mission is why I developed very quickly in mixed martial arts, quicker than anyone I've seen since, to be honest. I went in 22 months from turning professional to fighting in the UFC, which is unheard of, and very, very quick. And before that, I had 10 amateur fights in my first 11 months of competition. So I had one fight. I actually broke my jaw in my first fight. I had to take a few months off, and then I used to fight 1 to 2 times a month for the following 10 months or 6 months. And that hunger for improvement and evaluation and becoming better all fed into this. So that identity was solid for me. I was like, and that's what I want to do. And along the way, I met my wife, and my wife fed into that mission because as soon as I met her, I said, I want to be the best fighter on the planet. This is my mission. I'd love for you to be a part of it, but if you're not interested, go away. You know, so again, even when it comes to the whole dating side of things, women are attracted to a man that's on a mission because they're attracted to that aura or whatever you want to call it, that they know what they want to do with life. That's the biggest thing that women are searching for. Someone to tell them what to do with their life. Like, that's what I want. I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
You want to be a part of it? Great. If you don't, leave me alone. So
I think this is, sorry to interrupt you, I was just had a thought then with a conversation I had with a client the other day around like relationships, because so many guys don't communicate what they're truly wanting or wanting to achieve to the people around them, whether it's in work relationships, personal relationships, you know, your partner. And then that whole dynamic is almost built on like false pretense. And that's when resentment builds up in a relationship. And you see so many guys that are unhappy is because they just haven't clearly communicated from the get-go, like, this is what I'm working towards for us. And then you just end up doing this eventually because everything's misaligned. And I see it so much with guys in the work that I do specifically, because they just either haven't taken the time to think about, okay, what is this going to look like in 3, 5, 10 years time? They can just like floating through life instead of having that, like what you say, like the purpose and the drive. And it's probably the number one dream killer that I see in guys, because they end up just resentful of work, resentful of the relationships. But it can change so quickly when you just take time to address and identify what you want in terms of that North Star, but then communicating it is such a overlooked thing that most people don't do. I
think it's overwhelming as well. I mean, if you're not good at it and you're fearful, and you again, depends on how you meet and everything else. And if you, because the thing about the North Star is it changes, and that's when it becomes super complicated, and that's when people don't become aligned, and that's when problems arise, because you, again, with my line of work with cage fighting, it can't last forever. So on my North Star of being a cage fighter, and you join me, and we're going to be, you know, this is the mission. Once that mission ends, a new mission arises, and you have to re-identify and re-communicate, and life changes constantly. So it's you can be very good at communicating at the beginning, but then maybe your urges or your life or whatever changes, and you go in a different direction, and maybe that doesn't align with them because they signed up for this thing, and it can get super, super complicated. But I think the big problem I see with young men, and it's maybe the same with you as whatever, is a lot of them make getting a woman their mission. And it's the worst mission in the world. Yeah. So they're like searching for women, and they're trying to do things that they think will impress women. It's like the opposite.
But it's not authentic to them, because they're doing it. It's external. It's not internal.
Exactly.
It's not a compelling personal driver. Because if you get that aligned, everything else comes with it.
So if that all feeds into it. So again, cage fighting is a very odd thing to say is your passion and what you're driving, what you want to be. But I want to be a cage fighter. I want to be the best cage fighter I can be in the world. I still manage to attract a mate or a woman that wants to be on that journey with me, because I'm driven and I'm focused on one thing, and that is an attractive trait. And most men miss that, and they think they should appease like a woman in their life, or try and search or find or have characteristics. No, focus on yourself.
Isn't it, really? It's like
because you become submissive. You become it's the opposite of what you want to achieve. People pleaser. And I mean, that's fine, but you will find more success. We're talking about relationships now, but across your whole life, finances, relationship, whatever, if you pick, find your North Star or find your motivation and move forward on it, because everything else then feeds into your life. But then some people might call that egotistical. Some people might call that like selfish. Some people, it's fine.
Your life, man.
Your life. Be selfish, be egotistical, and do exactly what you want to do with your life. Yeah. And then one of the best bits of advice I ever get was, you can't pour from an empty cup. So if you're, the wealthier you become, the more influence you have, all of these things, the bigger and better man you become, you can then help so many more people or influence so many more people. And it's not about you or me. It has to be to start with to get to a position. And then if you're a good person, then you can help as many people as you want. I know so many people that are trapped by that tall poppy syndrome, that they don't want to invest in themselves and become the best version that they can be because fear of judgment. And they're like, no, I'm just helping others, and I want to. Yeah, cool. You can help a lot more people if you made a lot more money, for example, and I've had that with a lot of people close to me. I've had deep conversations about it, and it takes years of deprogramming for them to still understand, okay, there's nothing wrong with me being proud of who I am. There's nothing wrong with me wanting more. There's nothing wrong with me pushing myself. There's nothing wrong with me being selfish. Oh, you're selfish. So what?
Well, it's like that fine line people say that what's the difference between confidence and arrogance?
Yeah.
It's like backing yourself to a point where you're just so sure of what you're doing and the purpose can come across and make people who are actually insecure feel like it's arrogance, but really you're just being authentic to yourself.
Well, confidence and arrogance is the same thing. It's just how it's perceived by others.
Yeah.
So it's like if I'm confident and arrogant, you can call it arrogance, I can call it confidence. It's the same thing. It just depends if you have a loser's mentality or a winner's mentality. No winner is going to turn around and say, you're arrogant. As long as you are backing up the things that you're saying. If you go out there and say a load of crap and then sit at home and smoke weed and do nothing, then you're an arrogant loser. But if you're working hard every single day to try and achieve something and you're proud of who you are and you say these things and you talk about it, it's not arrogance, it's confidence because you're doing it. But that's not always comes from the, like I said, the perspective of the person who's talking. You're arrogant. Okay, this guy's a loser. That's like the number. If anyone who calls me arrogant, I know. It's like they say that no one ever punches down. No winners.
You never get criticism from someone doing worse.
You never get criticism from someone above you. Never. They always go, well done, good, that's great, do more of that. They give you advice. From the bottom, they're always like, well, why are you doing that? Da, 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 da. So it's a very interesting way to look at it, and it's all about the perspective of the other person.
On the topic of advice, this is something I want to talk to you about. So my granddad died last Wednesday, and he was the most influential man in my life in terms of helping me develop core values, morals, like everything that the lens in which I perceive the world is basically his teachings and the morals that he installed in me. And I wanted to talk about your biggest influencers, mentors. Who were they for you in terms of like advice? You said tall poppy syndrome, this kind of stuff. Like, who had the biggest impact on you?
I mean, sorry to hear about your granddad first. Obviously, I knew about it already, but I feel like a dick if I don't say it on camera. I'm joking.
It's celebration life. He was 98, man.
Exactly. He did all right. I mean, it depends on the different stages of my life. So my dad is probably my biggest influence of everything. My mum, obviously, as well. I think my mum, although the religion stuff that I don't necessarily agree with now, I think that gave me the power to believe in something that others didn't believe in and to stand by it. Because like my mum, you could say whatever you want about being a Jehovah's Witness or whatever, but she stood for it. She went up against others. She didn't celebrate Christmas, for example, and everyone else does. So she had to deal with a lot of judgment. And I think seeing her do that and the way that she dealt with it, even if I disagree with it, it's the resilience that I learned from. And I realized it's okay to be different because my mum was different. So she impacted me a lot. Obviously, she's my mum. When it comes to advice and life, I always go to my dad. If I have a problem, I ring my dad. If the first person I want to talk to about success or a failure is always my dad, because I know he'll, my dad's getting a bit older now. He was actually here today, so I haven't seen him in a while, but he was here today. And he's starting to tell the same stories over and over again. And I'm thinking, God, maybe I need to start giving him advice now. But yeah, I'd say he's one of the biggest influences. And then when it came to fighting, there's a guy called Jack Mason, who was the doorman that I met. He's a super wise guy. And a super underrated person, but he's not very loud. Like I'm loud and I talk. He's very quiet, keeps himself to himself.
I think you're quite not reserved, but I think you're for my opinion, especially when I first met you, you're more of an observer. Like you can tell, like you take everything in first, and then you're definitely confident in being loud when you want to speak. But I would perceive you more as like an observer.
Well, I agree, especially but most other people don't. Now I don't drink, definitely. I'm a lot quieter now. But yeah, Jack's very reserved. Very people would almost call him shy if you don't know him. Right. But if you know him, he's the opposite. But I learn a lot through not osmosis is the wrong word, but through seeing, not through. Visual learner. I've not been taught many lessons. Like Jack's the perfect example. Jack never sat me down and told me things, but I just watched how Jack dealt with situations. Again, as a doorman to start with women, because Jack was the man when it came to women back in the day, and with fighting and with being a man, because Jack was a little bit older than me, not much, but back then when you're 19 and the guy's...
You're impressionable.
Yeah, so I used to look at how he'd deal with situations and I'd want to do that. And it'd even be like, got to the point where if I ever had to complain about anything, in the fight world, there's people that know Jack, they'll understand, but you have no excuse. There's no excuse. You could never come to Jack with an excuse about anything. Like when it comes
full ownership.
Full ownership, 100%. So when it comes to fighting, I'm talking injuries and things like that. Oh, my hand hurts. Oh, my... You can't say that to
Find
Jack.
a way.
Because this is a man who I've seen, because I cornered him as well. He tore his hamstring during a fight and carried on fighting. He burned the bottom of his feet during a fight because the lamps were so hot on the canvas. The bottom of his feet burned off. And he carried on fighting and won. When he tore his hamstring, he went to the gym and he just punched the bag. He's a workhorse, you know what I mean? And he was also working a full-time job and working as a doorman and fighting. He was doing all these different things. Busiest man alive, if anyone knows Jack. That's what he said. You talk about me and I've got all these businesses and blah, blah, blah. I'm nowhere near as busy as Jack. Jack, to me, is the busiest man alive. So you can't make excuses. That's the thing I learned from Jack. And I used to go to him, and I remember the time I went to him to complain about something. And I went, and he was, I remember exactly, I walked into the gym, and I can't remember what I was going to complain about, but I walked up to him, and he was like, he had his side to me, and he turned and looked at me, and went, "Oh, what's up?" I went, "Nothing." Because I knew whatever I said, he would just be like, "Come on." So
just almost about to leave your lips. And
No, forget it. So I learned a lot through that, through viewership, through interaction. So Jack was full, like, we're talking about growing as a man and everything else. I learned so much from Jack. A guy called John as well is another guy that I used to train with in a different way. But that was more fight related because he had a great fighting mind. And then I moved on to entrepreneurship and everything else. And there's different influences from my life. But I'd say the early days, like who built me, because I kind of think that's what the question was. Yep. I would definitely say like my dad, my mum's strength, resilience, and then Jack was like my main. I really looked up to Jack growing up, like not growing up, but in my teens, late teens, and getting into fighting.
Maturing.
And I mean, I haven't seen the guy in probably 5 years now, so we talk every now and then. But he was the lessons have stuck. He was a very, very big influence on me. I mean, I had other influences too, but that's the guy that I would say is probably the number one.
That's interesting because when you talked about like with your mum and resilience, like I had the exact same impression from her, which is probably very common for most people. You know, your parents are going to be up there with the biggest influences. But in terms of like the UFC side of things and just fighting, like what was like the biggest challenges in that? Like mentally limiting beliefs that you faced?
I think I think the limiting beliefs I still face, and that's why I didn't get to the level I believe I could have competed at in a lot of different ways. I think, again, for me, and I'm just talking about me when it talks about, and it doesn't have to be around fighting, it could be about anything, but the challenge I faced in fighting was leaving my circle. So when we talk about influence, everything was easy. For me, fighting came easy. As in, it didn't come easy, it was fucking hard, but I'm saying I just did the work. So again, with the no-nonsense attitude that I got from Jack, from the backing of my parents, like, that built me, as long as I just believed as long as I showed up every single day and I gave everything that I could, eventually I'd be as good as I could be. Simple, logical, right? And that's what I did. Every single day showed up, worked as hard as I could. I was the first on the mats, last off, worked hard, got there. Yeah. But the thing that became difficult was as you go up the ranks, because obviously I won my first fight, lost my second fight, and then I won 17 fights in a row or something like that for years, like 3 or 4 years in a row. I just was expected to win. It wasn't even a question. And then I went on the Ultimate Fighter.
So Chael was your...
Yeah, Chael. Again, Chael's another big influence on me as well in the fighting game, and that's it moves on a little bit more. And then a guy called Phil Davis, Dominic Cruz. There was a lot of influences I had, but Chael for sure. So I was Team Chael. But then again, I looked up to Chael as a fighter for sure, but he wasn't my group. So when I all of a sudden I had to stand on my own 2 feet as an individual, and I had to grow into myself. And then I had 2 fights on the Ultimate Fighter, which I won. And then the third one, I fought a guy called Dylan Andrews, I want to say his last name was, and he was from New Zealand, and he'd had 30 plus professional fights. I'd had 5, and he was in his 30s. I was in my 20s, and that's when,
like, mentally you kind of doubting a little bit, like the
that's
experience.
when I needed Jack, I needed John, I needed Tommy, I needed AJ, I needed Robbie to be like, bro, you'll smash this guy, just to for that
remove
belief.
any doubt.
Yeah. So that's when that
creeping in.
So that started creeping in, because when I went on the Ultimate Fighter, there was 7 and 7, so 14 of us, so 13 other guys. high level, like middleweights. I was a middleweight. So I was like surrounded by these real proper athletes, American, there was a Swedish guy, there was like from all over the world, all very, very good. And I'm like, all of a sudden I feel small, you know, where I've used to feeling big in my little group. So psychologically it was a very, very tough test for me, the Ultimate Fighter. I just about got through it. I did okay. But it was definitely leaving my circle and standing on my own 2 feet. But
you have to go through that cycle of change because
for everything.
The new environment, you know, big fish, small pond, put yourself in something bigger and you're forced to expand or shrivel. Yeah. You know, it'll test you and provide that. And
that's the only way you get growth. So that's
the same thing moving here. Like we've both done the same thing in that sense in the business space. And you know, I mean, for me, moving from Costa del Leeds to Costa del Sol's a big change from where I was coming from, and being a in-person one-to-one PT to going online at the start of COVID, everyone, you know, it's not going to work and you'll be back here in a year, and 5 years later.
Yeah, but you still got to keep battling that every single day. So you're 5 years later, but the only reason you're still here is because you fucking work your ass off. I see you, so I know how hard you work. So it's like most people, it's that's what drives you in some regard, is that fear and of not impressing, but proving those people wrong. Like I said about fighting, you're now stepping away out of your circle of leads or whatever, and now you're here, and people, they do want you to lose. They do. They
people
just do.
Watch. You know, people are watching.
People are watching, and that's what you want. You want people to be watching, and you want to be saying, "I'm still here, motherfucker, and I'll keep going." You know, so that's the fire that burns, and that it's not a negative thing. People can frame it in a negative way, like, "Oh, you're just doing it for other people." No, I'm doing it for myself, but I need someone looking at me. I need someone watching. This thing Joe Rogan says, like, imagine that a camera crew following you, and you're starring in your own movie. More people watching, more pressure, the better you perform. That's life. So I think I went through that change. I mean, I've been here 11 years or 10 years. After I went to California, and before that, like I said, I went from London to Essex to Cambridge, or Essex to Huntingdon to Cambridge to California, California to here. And when I was here, I was Malaga, Torremolinos, now I'm in Marbella. And I believe that dexterity is a new talent that men need now, because life just moves around so much. But entrepreneurs that I have met, that I know, that are doing very, very well, are the people that have left home, have left their environment, have gone through that rebirth of being a part of a new society, a new place where they've had to face all those demons and face all those fears of leaving their circle and their local cafe and their local pub and their local schoolmates, you know. And the people that I know, and they're good people, they're not bad people. My old school friends are all really, really good people, but they're still living the same life that they were living 10 years ago. And I've lived 100 lives, and I've been 100 places, and I've done all of this, but maybe they don't want that, and I do, but maybe I want that.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with it either side, but it's if you know, going back to the North Star thing, like if you know you want more, you have to do it, man. You've got to take that leap. I think when I hear about like the challenges you've gone through in UFC, and it's like it's the same thing it all comes back to that identity and belief system of who do I believe I am on a subconscious level, bringing awareness to that. And Jim Fortin, one of the best guys in my opinion on identity change, as the be, do, have model. You know, if you want to have these things, it's not about focusing on the have, it's about focusing on the being. Who do I need to become? Because when I become this person, I then do the things to have what I want. And so many people are stuck in this have mindset instead of looking inwards. And that's something I place a huge emphasis on in my coaching is, okay, who if you want to have that stuff, how does that person show up day to day? Who are they on a being level?
And that's the best. Again, I never even thought about this, but Robbie Olivier said this to me when I was going to go for the Ultimate Fighter. And just in fighting terms, everyone can understand what you just said. It was like, I want to go on the Ultimate Fighter. We planned my career, and we said that I was going to go on the Ultimate Fighter. Just, you know, Robbie and me sat down and said, you're going to go through the Ultimate Fighter. They all happened exactly how we said it was going to. But when we were planning to go on the Ultimate Fighter, I know my first UFC fight, my debut in the UFC, he was like, so how are you going to train for this fight? And I was like, I explained it. And he said, okay, now let's imagine that you're fighting for a UFC title and you're going to become the middleweight champion of the world and you're fighting Anderson Silva because he was the champ at the time. How would you train for that fight?
First in, last out.
All of the things. So then we listed through, and obviously fighting for a world title, I was like, well, I got to do this, I got to do this, I got to do that. He goes, right, so let's do all of that now, because if you ever want to fight for a world title, you have to become this guy, and that's such an important lesson. and I talk about this a lot, and it's the same, is everyone wants the material bullshit that they want, the Lambo and the money and but none of them want to do what it takes to get there. And I know a lot of very highly successful people that don't feel great inside because they got that stuff, but they didn't become the man that they needed. They through crypto and through other things.
Not luck, but it's like
it looks great on the outside, but they haven't become the man that deserves those things. And it's a very different different journey. Like if you start trying to become the best version of yourself, rather than trying to get the best things in your life, you push yourself in a different way. In the process, I mean, enjoying the process, I don't know. I think the process is fucking miserable, but I quite enjoy misery as well, because I think you need to suffer a little bit for it to be worth it. That's what I'm saying. If you go through no suffering, it's like anything. If someone...
Quick money, fast money, little money, it's the same thing.
Someone gives you something, you don't never value it like you do earning something. So
from lottery winners always go broke because they don't value it. They've not worked for the money,
and then they're depressed because they had this and now they've got to live like this. There's all these different examples we have of it. But I think for young guys out there who I always talk about, I just said about the 20 years of fighting, now entrepreneurship, blah blah blah. It's all the lessons that I've learned over 20 years that make it easier in a way to do what I'm doing, but. No one sees the 20 years of hardship and me sleeping on the floor and me sleeping in a stock room and me being depressed and none of that. They just see this end and think, I want to get there. Well, to get there, you got to go through all this shit. And no one wants to go through that. So but you should want to go through that because then that makes you become the guy, So that's the only way you become the guy is by
the trials and tribulations, essentially, the challenges.
It's like wanting to get big chest and shoulders and not having any pain. This doesn't exist. For your muscles to grow, you have to go through reps.
Yeah, break yourself down to build yourself up.
Or you can take steroids or take this or do. You still have to do the work, but whatever. It's a little bit easier, and you can get
easier.
It's a lot easier. So. And you can get that cheap dopamine and you can get that look, but then deep down inside, you're always going to have the insecurity that you cheated. It's always going to be there. And that's again, more about becoming the guy. If you really push yourself and really work your ass off, no one can ever take that away from you. And that's something I've realized now. Again, now I'm 37 now and I was in UFC at 25. So it's been 12 years, right? But I can always say that I was in UFC. No one can ever say you didn't earn that, you didn't deserve that, you didn't get. I could make $10 million. It doesn't mean anything compared to being in the UFC because I earned that. Like it was earned through sweat.
Tears,
exactly. So that helped me become the man I am now, and that's something I can talk to every man on the planet about. Is about my experience in the UFC, my experience meeting Dana, my experiences fighting in the cage, walking out, how I felt, So those experiences that I have more value than anything else. And the only way to get those experiences is to suffer through them. So I think it's something very, very valuable. But the problem is everyone's in a new mindset where they just want things, and I don't know where that comes from.
I think you said something to me once when we first became friends and we used to drink a lot of coffee in paddle. Was you were like, for me, Andy, forget the finances. But everything I do now as an entrepreneur in business is a bonus. I've already won in life because of what I achieved as UFC. Forget the money. I remember you saying, I already feel like I've already got that in the locker. So everything else is just bonus and it's like playtime. And I think that's such a great way of looking at things. And if people can really anchor and look at themselves in terms of, be fucking proud of yourself of things you've achieved. Well, first go out and achieve them, but anchor onto them. Because then when you go into pursuing new ventures, it takes the pressure off a little bit.
Well, I think this is a simple whatever, but once you've achieved something, whatever that thing is, listen, I didn't become UFC champion. I wasn't top 10. I wasn't even amazing in the UFC, but I was in the UFC, which is a big deal, right?
Big thing.
So I got there. Once you've achieved something, it's much easier to truly believe in yourself. Actually believe you can do anything. Most people say it, but I truly know if I put my heart and soul into anything I do, it will work because I've seen the stages of it working.
It's irrelevant of the thing. It's just the process that if I show up, if I do X, Y, and Z.
Whatever I want. Yeah. Whatever I want. It doesn't matter what it is. And then now we talk, like I said, all these businesses. I just opened a bloody matcha cafe. I mean, why would I? I'm drinking it. It's pretty good. But why would it? I'm like, okay, I can do that, do this. It's just the stages that you have to go through. And some of them are going to suck. Some of it's going to be hard, whatever. But anything you want to do, you just have to go through those things. But it's much easier. It's like anything. it's like saying don't have to worry about money. Money's not important. It's easy to say that when you've got money. If you don't have money, you think, I want money. But once you have money, you realize, this stuff doesn't matter as much as you think it does. But I can't tell you that. You have to learn it. And that feeling I have of getting to the UFC and being a success, I did something. So now I know it's easy to do anything. You just have to do it. Most people never do anything, so they never have that understanding that they can do whatever they want. And it gives you that freedom. I use the word freedom when I explain it. Like, I know whatever I do in life, and I've had this on multiple levels and multiple times. It's always my dad. Like I said, I remember ringing my dad on the verge of crying because my laptop had broken. My car had broken down. I lost the gig. I dropped a load of money. I owed like 80 grand to someone. Like I was in a big bad spot, and I rang him. I was like, "Fuck!" Da, 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 da. And he goes, "Listen, it's again having someone behind you." He goes, "I know you, Luke. You'll sort it out. Don't worry about it. It'll be fine." I'm like, "Yeah, but." He said, "No, yeah, but." He's like, "You'll sort it out." And then I rang him 5 weeks later. And I'd smashed it, and I'd done this, and I'd done that, and I'd done it, whatever it was. I didn't know money. I'd made money, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. He goes, "I told you. Remember what I said? You'll work it out." And you worked it out. And that was the moment I really, again, believed in myself that I could face any problems. Yeah. And another bit of advice I got pretty recently from a good friend of mine was, you shouldn't care that much about things that happen to you in your life, because as long as you've got the right mindset, which I have, everything always works out okay in the end. It's always good. Whatever happens is good. Even if it's a bad thing that happens.
Lesson that, it's good.
You lesson it, you frame it, you learn from it, you become better because of it, and you're happy that thing happened to you later in life.
Well, that's that perception thing we were talking about. Like, some people don't have the capacity or ability to think in a way that reframes stuff into positive mindset. This is something I do a lot with clients, and in terms of like mental performance coaching, is like how most men are very, very emotionally unintelligent. Because they suppress their emotions, they don't feel. And we talked about this, I think, when I was on your podcast probably a couple of years ago now, around like the whole energy and the woo-woo thing. Even though we don't believe in that it's woo-woo, we just believe in energy in the universe and that kind of stuff. But most men are prisoners to their emotions without even being aware of it on a conscious level. So it's all subconscious, and they're in these automated coping mechanisms and reactive states. And it's like when you're talking to guys and wanting to help them make changes, it's like, okay, how are you feeling right now? Let's bring some awareness to the emotions. And one of the most amazing things that I went through on a personal level is learning how to feel emotion and reframe it. So like anxiety is just nervous energy. You reframe that to its excitement. So being able to like reframe things, okay, I'm feeling anxious, it's nervous energy. That's the underpinning emotion.
Then again, everything always comes back to fighting. Exactly what you just said, pretty much word for word, is what every fighter does before a fight. Everyone's anxious, everyone's nervous. And then you say to yourself, this is excitement. I'm excited about competing. And if I didn't have this nervous energy, I wouldn't care. So this wouldn't matter. So I need this to perform. So you reframe it to, I want to feel this nervous energy. This is a positive thing. Yeah. If I don't have this, I'm not going to perform to the level I need to perform at. And that all of a sudden you're happy and that you feel a bit nervous. And if you don't, because I had 53 fights, on the fights where I didn't have that nervous energy, I sucked. You know what I mean? So you become very, very happy that it's there and you want it and you're almost searching for it, and you wake up and you're like, you know, it's a different way of framing it. So again, fighting taught me that from a very young age, that reframing certain, I never knew it was called reframing, to be honest, but that's something that I learned later in life. But understanding how to reframe your emotions is a cheat code. It's an absolute cheat code.
Yeah. I think the other one is the one that I work on a lot with clients is anger. Because a lot of men are angry, they don't express their feelings, they don't speak their truths, and that builds as resentment and manifests as negative energy in the body and stress, physiological adaptation to psychological emotion. And anger's the other one where I'm like, okay, let's reframe that anger. It's because you actually give a shit about something, it's passion. So when you're having a fucking argument with the missus and it's anger, the way you want to communicate this is like, I'm not angry at you, I'm passionate about the thing that I'm trying to resolve for us. And it's that, again, it's the reframe, it's you and me versus the problem, not each other. Having these like reframes and ability to catch yourself in a triggering moment is so powerful that a lot of men don't have the ability to do. But when you can tune into that and you start bringing that awareness, it becomes such a powerful tool, because you develop what I call the inner coach, your ability to coach yourself and raise awareness. I was at the International Health Optimisation Summit at the weekend in London. Fucking mouthful that. And one of my favourite coaches ever was there, Peter Crone, and he has this saying that I love, and I use it with my clients all the time. The universe will provide you with people and circumstances to reveal where you're not currently free. Triggered? Right. Now it's feedback of telling you where you've got work to do, what you need to work on, a trigger of an emotion. Okay, dig a layer deeper. Why is that happening? What's happened for that to do? And like when you view the world through that lens, it becomes so easy to start reframing and looking at yourself on a personal development level. Especially when I talk about my clients, we look at them through the person, the physique, and the profession, personal emotions, physical capability, and how you show up in your environment, right? North Star, all of that. It's like when you can start using that as a tool, especially as an entrepreneur or business owner, the universe will provide me with people and circumstances to reveal where I'm not free. It just becomes such it's like that gamification, like you said, of Joe Rogan saying, become a movie star in your own life. It's like when you can look at it through that lens, it becomes so much more exciting, because you've got this awareness and you're in that proactive state, not reactive. And I think that's something that I learned from watching and knowing quite a lot of world-class athletes, is that they do that so well. It's like, it's the same thing in fighting. The universe's way of providing you with a circumstances, you get punched in the face or you keep getting caught with a right check hook or something. You know you need to work on that bit of defense, but it's like it's all that feedback. And I think most people are just scared to show that vulnerability and awareness, to be like, okay, where am I shit?
Well, the thing is that fighting is instant feedback. And most things in real life take months or weeks or years to show their ugly face, and then it's too late sometimes. But how do you, with that whole mentality, how do you train, or how do you highlight to your clients, how can they start learning how to do that?
Journaling,
you know what I mean?
Journaling. And again, this goes back to that woo-woo thing that men typically on face value, breath work, journaling, talking about emotions, spirituality. Like if you don't measure what's going on in your life, and it's not going to get managed, and that's a cliche cheesy saying, what gets measured gets managed, but it's true. You're not keeping a log of your progress, and this is why I talk about men in their week being this concept of a man with a plan, having an anchor point in your week where you reflect, you plan, you refine. Because if you don't, and you don't go, right, what's gone well this week? It's a simple question, 3 questions. What's gone well? What hasn't gone well? What could be better? Those 3 questions alone, if you literally answer them and you go, right, what's gone well? Did this well? Oh, I'm actually doing better than I thought. Positive reinforcement. What's not gone so well? Oh, had an argument with the missus. Okay, that's a big clue to where you're not free. Trigger emotion. Once you even those 3 questions, you start doing that more frequently, you start developing self-awareness, and then you develop emotional intelligence off the back of it. And most people struggle to get where they want to be because they lack either awareness or that North Star to work towards. When you combine the two of, okay, that's the North Star, what do I need to work on? And you bring that awareness, that's when you bridge from the be to the have and start doing the do's. So I think, to answer your question, journaling.
Well, because I think a good exercise that, because I've gone through coaching with this as well, but one of the exercises that I had to do was to think back to a memory of recent time where you have felt aggravated, or you have felt angry, or you have felt trapped, or you have felt in trouble, and then go through that process that you just said, understand why can't I, let's look at it through this lens, because this guy was a dick because of this, or whatever, or I was, normally it's someone driving and they have road rage, or someone, or some guy was rude to them at a restaurant, or whatever it was that happened. To me, I was in Vegas, and I was part of this business meeting, like a community thing, and one of the guys who ran the community was like super rude to me, and I felt, again, I'm a 6'6" ex-UFC fighter who could crush him, and I've never been in those environments where I have to listen to other people, because I've always worked for myself, or mainly worked for myself. So this guy kind of being rude to me, but I had to refrain myself and be like, because I don't want to, whatever. I'm sure a lot of people feel that frustration at work when their boss is rude to them and they can't tell them to fuck off because they're their boss. That's kind of how I felt in this situation. And I had to evaluate why I felt this and why, well, that was my example. But it was, what I learned to do through that as well is there's a couple of ways. Is obviously you go back and you go through what you just said, identifying the problem in the first place, and then working out why you don't feel free. And then from that, you can rewire your brain to remember that memory differently.
It's because like reprogramming it.
Yeah, so because our memories are all completely fucked anyway. They're not 100% accurate in any imagination. It's just from our perspective. So you can rewire your brain or rewire your memory to remember that in a different way, to release that tension, to release that pain, so it doesn't continue to happen in your life. So you get out of a loop the next time that someone is rude to me in a situation where they're in a hierarchy where I can't just put them in a headlock, then I will identify it first and react to it differently. So in my memory of doing that, I can identify it first and react to it differently. So I've trained my brain in like the past to then happen in the future. Whereas if I always just remember that memory as me getting pissed off and sitting there tense, then that's probably what will happen next as well. Because I'm sure you know about it, but there's studies where they say that you imagining things and remembering them and going through them in your mind, repetition is like 80% of actually physically doing it. So your memories are holding you back by remembering the negative and remembering the bad things, or turn all the negative and the bad things in your memories into positive things. And I've never had a bad day in my life, because like I said, you reframe. So you can, when we talk about reframing, we're talking about reframing in the moment when it happens to you, but you can also reframe in the past.
To let go of stuff.
To let go of things. Yeah. So that's something that I went through because it's
almost like trauma coaching, basically.
Almost
not
like
necessarily everything. What you're talking about, someone cuts you up in the car. It's not necessarily traumatic, but it's the same concept of letting go to emotional stress.
Yeah, and I wouldn't, because I'm not a trauma coach, or I don't deal with it. But I wouldn't say that for any patients of people who have psychiatric issues or anything like that. On a very surface level, like on a very, like I'm saying, if you're getting angry, or if you're getting sad, or if you're whatever if you're not in touch with your emotions, a good way to get in touch with your emotions is to go through your past, the last 6 months in your mind, think about moments where you've been upset, where you've been angry, where you've been whatever, and rewire in their brain, identify why you're thinking like that and why you're feeling like that, and maybe figure out ways to become more free so you don't feel like it again, and then work on them through your memories to try and alleviate some of that stress, because otherwise it builds up. Like you said, if it's in a relationship, if you're in a relationship and they're going to happen again, because everything is cyclical, so everything happens in a cycle. Yeah. So you've got to close the loop either by reframing it in your brain so it's a positive thing, or identifying why it's a problem and then moving past it. So there's that's something that I did a lot of when I first came into this kind of world, and thinking about it was like, why did I react this way? Why did this, go back in time, rather than, because we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. And, that 100% ownership thing that I learned from Jack and from, a lot of people since as well. I think taking 100% ownership for who you are and never blaming others and always blaming yourself, even if it wasn't your fault, it doesn't matter. It's still your fault, because
freeing when you think like that.
Yeah. Well, then life, if there's an earthquake, it's still your fault there's an earthquake, because you're in the place where the earthquake happened, for example. Like, you can't, then everything's your fault. It's just easier. Life's just easier that way.
Well, going back to Peter Crone, because I was chatting to him on Saturday, again, he has this saying, it's like pain and suffering are the biggest issues in terms of what people as the human condition struggle with. Like, pain's very, very real. If I twist your arm, you're going to feel it, and it's very, very painful. But suffering is the mismanagement of expectations that something should have been different than it was. So I know it's a tongue twister to say like that, but it's like, if you then, like you said about thinking about something that happened, the suffering is internally created by us because we believe or have the belief system that something should have been different than it actually was, and that we create that internally. So it's like what we talk about of reprogramming, of letting go. Loads of people that I work with, guys especially, main issues are actually stuff that's not even happened. And it's that fear of the unknown. It's the suffering created internally. And I'm like, okay, we're going back to that nervous energy conversation. It's like, how can you reframe that suffering into excitement, vision, and positive reinforcement of moving towards something different, as opposed to not where I want to be. What if this happens? All of this going to happen with my finances, my business, What if a client leaves? All of these things. It's like that negative programming, but you can reframe that into, okay, yeah, but what's the polar opposite to it? What if someone new signs up? What if I get all of this other stuff? It's like, it's so obvious, but people don't have that ability to interject the thoughts of going, right, I'm creating my own internal suffering here.
And then this is a very, very, very different subject, but I believe with all of that, I've been thinking about something recently, like the hive mind of humanity, right? So it's like everyone has these negative thoughts that you were just talking about. And I find one of the easiest way to put about it is like starting a new business. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but if I start a new business, then this could happen, this could happen, this could happen, this could happen, this could happen. And by everyone on the planet thinking that thing, those things are more likely to happen. Because you
confirmation bias.
It's confirmation bias. You seek it out then, right? So I think having, like you just said, if you look at the positive side of it rather than the negative side of it, and if you really believe those positive things are going to happen, they're more likely to happen, because it's like the whole red car theory or whatever it is, like you said, the confirmation bias. If you go into a relationship or go into a job or go into a business or go into anything in life and you just think about the things that could go wrong, you have to...
People live in that. That's most people's reality, unfortunately.
Yeah, every day. And then he said, and then they just torture themselves in their own mind every single day. And it's like the fact that you're torturing yourself and feeling like shit, it's more likely to happen anyway, because if you just freed yourself of it, that would never happen, because it's so... And this is something that I had a long time with my wife. She'd always think about the future or in 6 months. So just think about today. Let's get through today. Get it done. And yes, you can have, again, the North Star and the objectives and your phases and what you want to happen, but don't let any of that take away from today, because action is what matters.
Energy, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, exactly.
That's why environment's so important as well. Like you were saying about the focusing on the what could happen and the ifs, the buts, what. If you're in them, and that is one thing you have created with the studio and the network that we have here. It's just a bunch of fucking doers, as cheesy as that sounds. It's like the conversations we have on a day-to-day, just grabbing a coffee or like over the most simple thing. It's like when you put yourself in those circles, it just elevates that North Star vision of what's possible.
Yeah, because the conversations that we have are always, let's do this. And then it happens. You know what I mean? So it's like it gets reinforced by it actually happening rather than... all these ideas that float through, and then you give all this energy to this idea that never happens. It's just stupid. It's like, okay, let's do this. Okay, this takes this, done. You know, and then it just happens. So I think being surrounded by the right people is definitely a cheat code for that as well. But you can do it yourself. You just have to. I think journal. I used to journal a lot, and I used to spend. To be honest, I used to have a lot of mental practices that I would do, and now it kind of is on autopilot. But I could really use.
I'll send you a load of journal prompts.
Yeah, to re-get into a rhythm of doing it. And again, like giving up alcohol. I gave up alcohol 10 months ago. It's a very simple one. I'm going to give up drinking. Yeah, but what? You're not going to drink on your birthday? Or you're not going to, what about when Christmas comes along? What about, and again, people start putting in those negative thoughts that, oh, maybe I shouldn't because of that. Or maybe, what about a wedding?
What was the best?
And you already have these more likely problems to come, rather than I'm going to have a drink. Just think about today. Didn't drink today. Didn't drink tomorrow. You know, it's just easier.
Answered my question, because I was going to say, like, you know, a lot of people watching, like we say, the core 4 inside my program of self-destructive habits, alcohol, drugs, comfort eating, people pleasing, and like overworking, like working to distract yourself. They're all coping mechanisms for stress. And a lot of guys struggle with alcohol. My background, big drinker, used to take a load of drugs for years. And the question I was going to ask you is, for the guys watching that do struggle with that, like, what was the number one thing for you that where it was just like made stopping drinking so much easier? Was it that day?
No. The thing that makes it easy, I actually read a book, which is super, super good, by Alan Carr. It's called The Easy Way to Give Up Alcohol.
The comedian?
No, that's what I thought when I first said it as well. But he wrote a book, The Easy Way to Give Up Smoking.
Yeah,
and then
I remember you telling me about this book.
But it's, I mean, you have to, it's like one thing, you can't be taught it, you have to go through the system. He even talks about it. You have to read the book for it to happen. But I'll try and summarize it in one sentence. It's all about reframing. So I have reframed alcohol in my brain to believe that if you drink alcohol,
you're a loser.
You're a loser. That's it. So for me, I didn't even say you're a loser. I've publicly said it to my friends, and I said, if you see me drinking, it means I've given up on life. So if I have this North Star of who I want to become and what I want to do and what I want to achieve, alcohol does not help me do that in any way. So I've reframed alcohol to be, it means I've given up on life. So even every now and then, for me, it's Guinness. I love Guinness. Yeah. So I see Guinness, I'm like, oh, it's just really...
Yeah, I'm on the 0% keg. We're going to get it installed in the studio.
No, that will happen. It will happen. I've got the guy who's going to build the bar. It's happening. But luckily, Guinness has a 0%. I think that maybe that's what saved us. But if you see me drinking Guinness and an alcoholic, then I've given up on life and that's how I framed it in my head.
And that's attaching that to that North Star has to be so compelling and exciting and making you feel uncomfortable that it pulls you forward through life. It's like for you, you're attaching that to part of your North Star is if we go back to the be do have, the doing things, if that is in that part of that North Star, that means it's not and not moving towards it, it's out of alignment. So it becomes really easy for you, black and white, yes, no.
Yeah.
You know.
I mean, it's just the reframing. Like we've been talking about reframing this entire podcast, but reframing alcohol is the easiest way to stop drinking. And and again, because I'm a part of this whole anti-matrix, anti-government, anti-da-da-da-da kind of like group, and that's kind of how I reframed it in my brain as well. It's like we are tricked from a young age to think that alcohol is cool. To keep us down, to suppress us, because when you turn on the TV and you watch a cowboy movie when you're a kid, they do a shot of whiskey and then they shoot the bad guys, so they're cool. So they condition you from a young age. The people that are conditioning us from a young age to drink alcohol want us to lose. So I don't want to be conditioned. So I'm against that. That's another way it's reframed.
And that's
so
an identity.
A few prongs. Yeah, it's part of my identity. Again, if I drink alcohol, I've given up on life. That's how I look at it, and it's just. You know, you'll see me post on socials, and I post, and I have people message me now. I posted a now pool party, or whatever, and I'm sat there, and there's like a table full of champagne and bottles. I'm like, no, bro, I'm drinking water, but I don't mean I can't be around alcohol. And this is the other thing. I like being around drunk people. It's fun. I love it because they're not. People I drink with don't get drunk to the point where they become annoying. Some of them do, but you know, like it's not like I don't want to be in fun environments. It's not like I don't want to be places. I still go out. I still do go to these spots, but I just don't need to drink. I really don't. And I think, again, identity. When I was 20, I probably needed to booze a little bit because I was a bit shy and didn't know who I was, and I didn't have a North Star and da 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 da. Now it doesn't add anything to my personality. It doesn't add anything to my life. It doesn't make me better. It does nothing. It takes it all away. Like all it does is make me lose time. And I don't want to lose time because I only have a finite amount of it on this planet, and I want to utilize it as much as I can to be the best version I can be. And boozing just doesn't help. So people can call me boring. They can do whatever they want. But if you go out with me, I'm not sitting there being a boring dickhead. I mean, compared to being 20-year-old me jumping around, maybe. But you know, I have a good time, and I'm a good person to be around without booze. So I think. All of those reframings and thought processes and the way that I look at it is very strong way to view it. It's a very hard thing to do because society wants you to do it.
Yeah, this is something I say to my clients with any kind of habit for, like say that we talk about those core 4 self-destructive habits.
What are the core 4? Tell me again.
So drugs and alcohol, comfort eating, people pleasing, and overworking. They're the 4
people pleasing.
So it's a coping mechanism because what do all of those things do? They give you instant dopamine. So
people pleasing is in you want to be liked. Is that that's what you mean?
So you do something to get some form of validation.
Okay.
The food gives you dopamine. It validates. It makes you feel better about a situation. You people please. It makes you feel worthy. So it's a distraction from feeling the true emotion that you're trying to hide and suppress.
I think food would definitely be my one.
Yeah.
I don't think the people pleasing. I'm a cunt. So people know that about me. No problem. Booze and alcohol I've given up. No problem. What was the 4th one?
Overworking.
Okay, maybe I overwork. All right,
yeah. No, but we all do it.
Overwork and overeat.
It can be we use it as a distraction, and we use it to the justification is I'm doing it for my family, I'm doing it for all these reasons. But the reality is a lot of the time we overwork because we avoid sitting with the feelings. Like most men really struggle to just sit and feel or sit and do nothing, sit and be with themselves. I had to fucking raw dog my flight last night because my laptop and stuff died, and I was like, this is harder than you'd think. Just sitting with your own thoughts for 2.5 hours. It was a lot harder. I was grateful for it at the end, but I was like, God, this is
I had a chat about this recently with a friend of mine who was inside for a while, and he said, just lock yourself in the bathroom for 6 hours. Good luck. Like it's tough. And then I did it, and it's interesting to be, again, like I fly a lot, and the thought of flying on a plane for 8 hours or 5 hours or whatever without Netflix or something to watch or a book to read or whatever, and you just got to sit there. It's terrifying.
Well, one of what I was going to get, just reminded me, when I was talking about those core 4, one of the tools or exercises that I use with clients that's really helped me is what you call if-then planning. So just like journaling, if you say you wanted to give up booze, or I think be good to use it in context of something you'd actually value. So food for you, traveling, right? If I'm coaching you, Luke, and you're saying, right, and they want to get leaner, we know what we need to do. We need to eat relatively clean, whole foods, blah, 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 blah. So we use if-then framing or planning. So if this happens, then I do this. You pre-think about scenarios in your head, because then when it comes to the actual situation, it's not an immediate shock and a trigger. You've already got a
pre-built defense, basically.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, for example, someone trying to give up alcohol, if-then planning, right? If I go meet my friends, football's on, if I get to the bar and someone offers me a drink, this is what I'm going to say. Even thinking about a predetermined response makes it easier. All of these situations, and when you start being proactive about how you're going to show up, who you are as the person, okay, maybe they don't have my usual non-alcoholic Guinness. If that happens, then what's my backup? I'm going to have a Coke Zero. That level of thinking and planning really gives people a lot of power in those situations. And for getting back to your example of food, it's like, if then, okay, get to the airport, I usually have this box of fruit, protein bar, and then, okay, if they don't have them, then what am I having? Because then you don't just go into reactive autopilot mode, because people will always fall back on what's comfortable, familiar, and convenient. So you have to break that loop. If you're talking about habit formation, James Clear, cue, craving, response, reward, you have to break it at the cue level. So the cue, the stimulus is, okay, they don't have my normal thing. That's the cue to then go, right, I'll grab what's convenient. Burger King, great. You have to interject that. And that's where if-then framing can be really, really powerful.
Okay. I mean, I could definitely see how that would work. When you said about it for booze and stuff, I was like, but yeah, for food, yeah, I mean, for me, it's more when I'm hungry, I eat. But yeah, it's responsive. What did you use the word? It's like a
reactive or reactive. Yeah.
I'm super reactive. That's my problem with food. It's not planned out. I just live my life, and mine's sausage rolls before golf. You know, yeah, exactly.
I was in London, obviously the weekend, and I was just like, when you go back home and there's all those comfort foods you just want.
That's how I'm a sucker for. Every time I go back to the UK, I have a pork pie, I have a sausage roll, I go to Marks and Spencer's and have all that crap, all of it.
So good.
Yeah.
M&S's, there's a chicken ham and leek pie from M&S. I always get my mum to get in. I'm like, Mum, I'm coming, get the pie. I'm coming home, get the pie.
Yeah, so that's habit forming for sure.
Yeah. So the last thing I kind of want to run and ask you about is this concept that I fell across when I was journaling and doing a lot of identity stuff myself. And I think it ties really well into framing that North Star vision stuff that we talked about. Is what would, for Luke, the 70-year-old version of yourself, be proud of looking back at? So we're talking about legacy, and this is something I use with clients to help when we're talking about creating a compelling North Star, something that's makes you feel uncomfortable. It's that big. Legacy. Now that you've come out of the UFC, now that you're building all of these businesses, what do you want to be looking back at 70 and say you've achieved?
I always say that my dream, I said this recently, my dream when I'm 70, if I make it to 70, which I'm sure I will, longevity supplements I'm taking from Do Not Age, I'm sure I will.
Sign up for coach.
NMN. I want to be that old guy, immaculately dressed, that goes to the same cafe every single day and sits in the corner, has a paper, but maybe papers won't exist then. Has got his phone or whatever, or using holographic, whatever. Every single day, same time, have an espresso. The people know me. They bring me over exactly what I'm going to order, and I sit there and I really want to feel like I have nothing to do. And I know this sounds weird, but I want to feel like my family's taken care of. I've done everything I could possibly do with my life, and I've lived so many different experiences that all I crave is peace. So all I crave is, and I want to live in the middle of nowhere in Italy, and I just want to walk out on a little have you seen The Equalizer?
Yeah.
Equalizer 3. I want to be that guy. So I want to be him who shows up to the cafe every single day, puts his little thing out, puts his cup of coffee, and I feel like, and again, my dad's my biggest inspiration or whatever. My dad, this maybe sounds morbid, but my dad always says, I could die tomorrow, don't matter. I've lived a great life. I've got 3 kids. They're doing well. I want to be that guy. I want to feel like, not I've completed life, but I've done enough. Mm-hmm. To get to 70 and to feel like I've done enough, I've got a lot to do, because I don't feel like I'm anywhere near there. But that's what I want. I want to be the extremely well-dressed gentleman that comes down and has a coffee, no one knows what I do. No one knows what I've done. No one knows who I am. No one cares. I have nothing to prove to anybody. And I can just sit there every single day and spend time with myself and contemplate on life and not be scared to sit in my own presence or whatever you said, with my own brain, and just feel peace. We can feel content, you know, and obviously lots of grandkids that will come and visit me and destroy that peace. But day by day, every morning, have an espresso.
Amazing. And I've got one more question just off the back of that, because I asked a client this the other day. What part of you do you need to let go of to make that a reality?
Yeah, I think it's the overwhelming urge to become somebody. So I think I could probably do that now and go to a cafe every single day and drink coffee and be at peace with myself. But I need to have filled a void within me that I have no idea how to fill. So that's the whole driving force behind who I am. The whole driving force behind who I am, getting to the UFC, starting these businesses, all that sort of stuff, is I'm trying to fill something within me that I don't know what it is. So I think a lot of people, I know a lot of very, 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 very successful people, and they still feel like they've not achieved anything in life. So that's a different kind of void. That's a different kind of problem. That's a different thing. But yeah, I think I'll get there. I think I'm very, very self-reflective and very, very self-aware. And I'm not chasing money, and I'm not chasing notoriety as much as most people, because I feel like I reflect quite a lot. But I'm definitely chasing to fulfill that void within me. And I think I need a certain level of success for that to be possible. Whatever you want to say that success is, I don't know. But yeah, that's once I fulfill that void and I can let go of that identity of the person that's always pushing forward. I don't know if that comes with age. I don't know if that comes with time. I don't know if that comes with family. I don't know what that comes with. But that's kind of what I think I'm trying to work out at the moment. So I'm working out and trying to do inspiring things and live an inspiring life and enjoy my day-to-day existence, and go into industries that are fun and interesting and I can grow from and learn from. Like, we're trying to make a movie. So making a movie will be a fun, enjoyable experience. And maybe that leads to big things and having a studio and being a studio executive and da-da-da-da-da. Or maybe it leads to trying to sell it to Netflix and them telling us to fuck off and we're never making a movie again. Who knows? But the process of making a film and going through that will definitely be a story I can tell forever. So yeah, even though I'm that old guy drinking espresso, I'll have a million different stories that I can tell in a million different parts of my life. And I think that having to let go of the person that needs to fulfill the void is what I need to do. But don't know how to do that.
That's the human condition.
Exactly.
So final thing, I always like to let everyone kind of plug stuff. So in terms of projects of these 7 million businesses, what do you want to just tell the audience what's on the focus right now? What's upcoming? We've got Casa Blend.
I mean, Casa Blend just opened, which is obviously it's our little, coffee shop. I say coffee shop, but it's not that sort of coffee shop. We have like, high-end superfoods. So we do coffee, matcha, acai, collagen, anything that's good for you, protein, all that sort of stuff is right underneath the studio. We opened that recently, but mainly because our bill at the local cafe was so high that we thought we need to just curb that a little bit. And I think we still keep it running. But that's good. So Casa Blend, obviously the studio here, but the movie's the big thing at the moment. The big focus right now is A Beautiful Kill. We've got the contract signed now for most of the financing to come in. We get to work and we start. Hopefully we can shoot this year. To get it started, because the sun in Spain will be here hopefully till December. That will be a 6 to 8 week shoot. Then we go into post-production. Then hopefully next year we can launch it. So hopefully by this time next year, we would have had a premiere. We would have sold it to Netflix, and I would have sold it for $50 million. And yeah, you will be an extra, and everything will be good. So that's a big one. Obviously, for the vault and trading, that's kind of like my day-to-day at the moment. Working with the vault and doing everything else for that. So anyone who wants to try and make money online, it's a completely free system that you can utilize to make money online. If you're interested, I'm sure the link will be here, or he'll put it. I don't know. If not, you can find it through my socials. And then I've got a few exciting projects at the moment. I'm obviously cornering Lerone Murphy when he fights for the world title in December. I'm saying that as if it's actually happened. It hasn't been officially inked yet, but this is what by the time people watch it, I think it will be. He's going to fight Volkanovski We're just waiting for the contract and waiting for it to be official. And along with that, we've launched a fitness and fighting app called Cornerman. It's myself and Lerone. For anyone who's interested in fighting and training one-on-one with me or one-on-one with Lerone, I do the mentality side of it and the coaching side of it, and he does the fighter side of it. So you actually get techniques from Lerone and you get insight from me. And you can send us your shadow boxing and stuff like that, and we review it. So the Cornerman app is something that's growing pretty quick. And like I said, a few other bits, but I think that'll do for now. And obviously the podcast studio that we're shooting this in, we've got the Cigar Club, Casa Cigar Club that we have every Friday. If you're in Marbella, come down, enjoy a good smoke and great conversation. And we have some of the best networking I've done in Marbella has been at the Cigar Club. Met some of the greatest people.
Next event is this Friday.
We do it every Friday, but we got a big event at the end of the month. We're tasting Tristan's new tequila, the Talisman tequila, which is coming out. So we'll have the first bottles in Europe. So we'll have that at the Cigar Club. Everyone can drink tequila, smoke cigars. I'll be drinking water, obviously.
Guinness.
I actually, 0% Guinness. But I actually tried the tequila last year out of plastic bottles from Mexico. And it's pretty smooth. It's pretty sweet if you like tequila. So I'm sure you'll have some as well. So Casa Cigar Club's a great little thing as well, and we got that going. It's an online educational platform for people that don't know anything about cigars and are scared, want to smoke but scared to smoke in communities or with people or go to cigar lounges because they don't want to look like an idiot, which is how I felt when I first smoked in them 6 or 7 years ago. And so I built this community of people to learn how to smoke cigars or learn about cigars. We do very, very basic education, and then we have like whiskey tasting with it and how you can pair liquor and everything else. We're launching the course at the moment for that. And a few other things, but again, that'll do, yeah. So appreciate you having me on, and finally we got to do it. It's been 3 years in the making, but we got there in the end.
We got there in the end. And round 2, we're going to spank Lerone and paddle again coming up.
Yeah, that'll come soon.
Flip that. Yes, cheers. All done, mate.